Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of the Enlighten Up podcast. Today I have the honor of having a brand new guest on the show. I happened to be on her podcast last month. She is intimacy expert Allana Pratt, and she is a global media personality and go-to authority for those ready to heal heartbreak, live unapologetically, and attract a soul-shaking relationship. This Ivy League grad is the author of 6 books, has interviewed Whoopi Goldberg and Alanis Morissette, and hosts the edgy podcast Intimate Conversations, which is in season 11, Soul Medicine, which is where listeners learn how to become the one to find the one, which awakens the one. She's a certified master coach with over 5.6 million views on her YouTube channel. And she was asked by Lisa Gibbons to coach her during Dancing with the Stars. She's interviewed over 800 times. She's been chosen as an icon of influence and featured on Huffington Post, People Magazine, Forbes, CBS, ABC, Fox, TLC, iHeartRadio, and more. For the past 20 years, she has brave willingness to heal her own heart, makes her authentic, relatable, and credible in her proven coaching programs and intimacy retreats. Her wisdom, exuberance, and raw transparency inspire the deep soul work required to create a solid, intimate relationship with one's self first, which I wholeheartedly stand behind, and which naturally will attract and enhance a healthy partnership that lasts. She's a small town Canadian girl, just like me, who is honored to love the shit out of humanity. And I am so happy to love the shit out of you today, Allana. How are you doing?
Oh, I've been missing part 2 to our conversation after my podcast. It's so good to be here, sweetheart. Thank you for having me.
I know. We had such a fun time on your podcast, and we're going to do the same here today. We have very similar journeys, a lot of overlap in experiences that have really shaped who we are and allowed us to help heal others on their own path from what we've experienced in our own trauma. So this will be a lot of fun without a doubt. And I love this whole topic of intimacy. Intimacy is something that I think a lot of people, when they hear that, they first think about sex, and they think about, maybe risque things and all of that. But truly, intimacy is only created through first knowing yourself as deeply as possible so that you can then know another as deeply as possible.
Yeah. And of which I did not know myself very well when I started this journey. I think, we're here to, teach what we're here to learn. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even know I had an inside. I was scampering so fast, trying to be safe and get approval so I'd be safe, or get a result and accomplish something so I'd be safe. Everything was like, in order to be safe, that I didn't even know there was anything on the inside. So yeah, small town Canadian girl, hopped on Uncle Phil's 18-wheeler semi when I was 19. So I was Miss Kamloops princess in British Columbia, and quit college and moved down to LA. And I thought, I was a dancer since I was 5 years old. So I'm just going to dance on a cruise line and figure my life out. And I failed, but I was good enough, but I didn't have that visa, the working visa. So I moved over to Japan. And that's where I was for 4 years. And I was a dancer and a model and an English teacher and a spokesperson and a backpacker all over. And I think that's probably the first time, love, that I got on the spiritual path. I was in Koh Phangan, Thailand, at a full moon rave party every single night.
As we do.
Oh, yes, as one does. Completely insecure. I was comparing myself to every girl. I was terrified of every man and wanting his attention, but terribly afraid of it as well. And I think that's one of the first times I woke up. I remember going on the opposite side of the party scene where my hut was, up and down the beach, days on end, purposefully in a G-string, floss G-string, to trigger all of these insecurities. And my goal was, I'm going to walk up and down this until I no longer compare myself to another, hate my body, or fear men's gaze. And it took days and days. And I sobbed. And I was just like, I'm so insecure. I'm so in my head. I'm not enough. I hated my body. I had this war going on. And then on the one last time I turned around, I said, fine, I guess I'm just going to be a hot mess forever. And the sand fell away. And I was one with the waves and the water droplets in the air and the sun and my body. And my body was like, oh my God, this is a divine temple. Oh, and I looked at people and I'm like, oh, and you're a bodhisattva. Oh, and we're all one. Like I had a direct experience, which of course didn't last, but it was enough to go, oh, there's more. Do the work. This thing about the personal growth world, the work, let's go in this direction. And so after living in Japan, moved to New York. That's when I went to Columbia, went to school. That's where husband number one came from. And but I reverted. When I got back, Nicole, to the States, people said, what kind of dancer? And I was a topless dancer. I had danced with all these French girls, and we all loved our body, and we saw our sexuality as sacred, and we saw our bodies as temples. And when I got back, it was deeply shamed. So I said, well, I studied ballet and tap, like I didn't tell anybody what I'd done.
Yeah.
But so I would meditate in the closet. I would hide. I wouldn't let him know of my spiritual nature. And I just tried to be the good Wall Street wife. And we had a house in, Connecticut, and we had an apartment in the city. And, I had it all. I was miserable. He wasn't a bad man, but I wasn't the depth of who I am now. And so we moved from New York to LA, and I'm like, oh my God, my people. I started to find my personal growth people. I started to go to Agape. I started to, do plant medicine. I found, oh, I'm not weird. There is life beyond this. There are dimensions beyond this. Sexuality is sacred. All of these awakenings. So we divorced. And then my mom got sick of cancer. And of all my family members, I'd say she's the one that saw me and believed in me. And she was dying. And I closed my heart and I thought, okay, well, a man is a plan. I'm going to get another man and I'll have a baby and everything's going to be fine. So she died. I found another man. And of course, my closed heart attracted a closed heart. And within a year, mom was gone and I was a single motherless mom. I had attracted somebody quite angry. And no harm, no foul. I said I would marry him forever and I didn't. And so he got revenge, and it was a 12-year custody battle. And I lost everything, my home, my savings. I was in $250,000 of debt. And eventually, once my son was 15, he goes, Mom, the only way this is going to end is if dad wins. I'm going to move in with dad. So I relinquished my legal and physical custody. And I said, fine, go live with dad. And he was right. Court ended, but I had to take the high road. And so this was a very painful journey, but such a beautiful journey as we loop all the way back to this intimacy. I had to start looking in, who was I that attracted divorce number one, divorce number two, 12 years of this custody battle? Like, what the hell's going on inside of me? Because the top of the iceberg, my little brain, I've got the best of intentions. I'm cum laude Ivy League grad. I'm smart as fuck, but it wasn't doing any good. So underneath the water, the iceberg, all the subconscious wounds, I had to really take responsibility and learn what was going on, which led to me being a coach and an intimacy expert and the author and the podcast and all the success. So you'd think I'd get there, but I was still single. And the relationship before the one I'm in now, charismatic, multimillionaire, like it on the conscious path, had that charisma, that chemistry that I'd always go for. Well, within a week of moving in was the first physical abuse. And I had never experienced this before. And I was in my early 50s. And I was so ashamed, Nicole. Here I am, this person that helps create finding the one, saves marriages, does all this great work in the world. Oh my God, I'm so fucked up and I'm so ashamed. And so I was going to fix him. I was going to save him. I was going to heal this wound in him that would make him physically abuse me. And it didn't go very well. So within 10 months of hiding what was going on, and he had 30 guns and I was terrified. Finally, one time with another criminal assault, I screamed so hard that the police came and arrested him and took him away. And I said, okay, I have done everything. I've done ayahuasca, I've done psilocybin, I've done somatic experiential work, I've done quantum, spiritual technology. I've done, what is missing? And when you ask, the answer is always provided. And it's our job to listen, hear, be brave, and do the work. So I was introduced to a way of using plant medicine that I'd never used it before. I'm very good, I now understand, going out to tier 3, hearing spirit, disassociating because of abuse as a child, sexual abuse as a child. But what I'd never been introduced to was the use of plant medicine to stay in the body tier 1 and to get my hypervigilance of level 4 trauma all the way back to still point in my body. And this is the work that I have been doing, added to everything else that I've been trained in for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so I have finally healed this level 4 trauma in my body that I had no idea was in there. And as a result, the gentleman pleaded guilty for criminal assault. That's been the past. I have met the love of my life at 53. And it's calm and it's easy and it's healthy. And it's a complete reflection of doing this inner work, having an intimate relationship, even with the parts of myself that were ashamed, that hated myself, that hated God, that got all that resolved in my sexuality as well. And I've never been happier, calmly happy, not excited happy. Ooh, and I love to be able to help others.
That's a big distinction, which I want to get to in a second. Like, so while you were talking, like one of the things that really kind of hit me, especially even when you were just talking about like walking the beach in Thailand and really trying to reconnect with your body, but this so much shame around the body. And it made me really think about how in this matrix that we're all operating in, how viciously we're all trained and programmed to turn against our body.
Yeah.
And our body is the technology that allows us to like completely liberate ourselves.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's wild because we want to think it's something else, right? We want to, but there's a reason why we have the mind, body, soul, or the mind, body, heart kind of trifecta, right? It's because, your mind, you've got your beliefs, and that is super important to creating your reality. But in order to create your reality, you've also got to put some emotion behind it. You've got to feel all of that.
Totally.
But the real master of it all, the thing that brings it all together is the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like, and this is something I've obviously learned myself over decades of healing, and especially even just in the spiritual communities, is how minimized the body becomes and how like put on a pedestal the heart and mind are.
Yeah. Well said. Totally. And I had fallen prey to this as well.
Yeah. We all do. We all do.
I mean, I'll just eat well and exercise. That's basically the body. But in this way of using psychedelic somatic integration work with MDMA cannabis in this process, it's all about trust body. And I'm like, well, my body is the one that got me in this trouble in the first place. Like that's how the being molested and all the rest of it happened. I'm not going to trust body. We need to control body. But as I was facilitated in this, the body held all the keys, also the keys to forgiving myself. Because when I was in level 4 trauma, so there's 4 levels, and I'll just explain this for people that are not aware. 0 point is when we're home, everything's fine, we're embodied, we're calm. And let's say we're a gazelle and we're out in the tundra and we hear something in the bushes, a cheetah, maybe. So level 1 would be, there's something over there. So we're alert, we're maybe a little afraid, we're maybe a little nervous, etc. But we've got our wits about us. We can make a choice. Level 2 trauma is OMG, the cheetah's chasing me. 30, 60 seconds, we're going to go. And so that might feel like rage, panic, like massive, like can't breathe sorrow, like something super intense, but it doesn't last very long because it's not sustainable to run that hard or to feel that much. And again, if the predator goes away, back to 1, back to 0. But if you've been growing up where there's regular lack of safety, abuse, trauma going on in the household, you move over to level 3 where the cheetah's caught you and you play dead. Oh, maybe, I can make it to the weekend and get to grandma's house. Maybe the perpetrators will leave. You still have choice. You're maybe playing dead, but you know that if they drop you, if back to the animal example, so if the cheetah drops the gazelle, the gazelle can get away. So you play dead, but you're still conscious. And you're growing up, I can still go to grandma's house on the weekend, or I can still move out. I've got choice. But when it happens so much that there's no escape anymore, maybe there's abuse at grandma's house and at the main house, there's just no escape. You go into level 4, you disassociate, you leave the body, and you go out into what's like a respite. Well, you might look calm on your face, but nobody's home. Nobody's home. You're not in your body. And that makes the body go into a 24/7 hypervigilance, looking, where's the abuser I need to survive? Where's the next abuser I need to survive? There's no more perspective choice.
Thereby creating realities that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And what I didn't get, Nicole, is that my cognitive analysis, my brain was very aware that I want a healthy partner. And I would cognitively choose what I thought was a healthy partner. But 95% of the show, my body was 24/7 hypervigilantly seeking. And this is important for people who can't seem to end this pattern. My body was seeking the next abuser to survive 24/7. So that's all I could attract from one marriage to the next boyfriend, all the things. The beautiful thing is, with the use of the medicine this way, we can help the being get from disassociation back into the body, back through level 3, which feels like suicidal ideations. What's the point? Very hopeless, not very fun. So you need a facilitator there because it's not fun for a while. And then you get to level 2 and you think you're going to die. The panic attack is incredible. The rage is like, I need to murder somebody. Like, it's intense. But again, facilitator holds space. Take me with you. I'm right here. Let's keep feeling. Back to 1. Okay. I got through that. Mild irritation, nervousness, mild fear. But then here's the 0 point that I'd never experienced in my whole life, except when I would leave and go out to tier 3. I could have this bliss out there in the cosmos, but I'd come back to reality and I'd be insecure and terrified. But when I got back and did this tier 1 work with the medicine in my body, I'm like, oh, this is safety from the inside out. This is worth from the inside out. This is even beyond safety and worth. This just is, I am that I am. Oh, this is what they're talking about. I am that I am. I'm actually being it, feeling it, embodying it. Talk about gratitude. Oh my God. And then now I'm like a house on fire. All my clients, I'm like, we need to do this. We need to add this to the work that I do privately or in group or retreats. But to have these VIPs with the use of the medicine, I'm getting results that I've never imagined I could get so quickly with people, because we're going to the root, honoring and trusting the body as equal to the divine mind and our beautiful heart.
Yeah. The body is so important. It has to be part of the equation. It absolutely has to, because that's what experienced everything first.
Correct. Well said. I didn't get this before, but if the trauma occurred in relationship, the healing has to occur in relationship, right? The trauma occurred in the body. The healing will occur in the body.
And this is what so many people will forget when they go on their healing journey, because you do have to go through a period of isolation to some degree. You do go within. You have to maybe remove all of the factors around you just so you can understand like who you are and what are your needs and all, without all the distractions. But sometimes it gets a little too comfortable. and you think, and you forget how to even relate to other people. You're
Mm.
scared that if you do go back out into a relationship, you're just going to
Yeah.
get caught in another cycle. But
Yeah.
ultimately, the relationship is the final test
Mm.
of integration.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say like two relationships are the final test. For me, my facilitators, I began with a woman and ended with a gentleman so that I would feel safe to have, I didn't even know, Nicole, that there was molestation in my past. All I knew is I wasn't comfortable with this one or that one. And when I did my first journey, all the memories came back. The smells came back. The physical sensations came back. The images came back. All of it came back. It was a lot to deal with. And I'm glad that I had a female practitioner who could be more like an older mother figure for me as I dealt with a horrific awareness of what had occurred to me. But also simultaneously, I got to forgive myself of why I kept attracting these abusers over time, because my body was hypervigilantly looping, looking for the next abuser. So that was the first piece. The second piece, my facilitator was a gentleman, and I was literally relearning in a very obviously professional way what noble masculine energy, what honor, what protection feels like, so that I could create not only a secure attachment to myself again, but a secure attachment to the feminine and the masculine in these journeys, which led to the secure attachment to my own inner masculine and feminine on the inside. So partnership with me, partnership with the feminine, and partnership with the masculine. For me, this was very key to being sovereign, whole, and calm. And then I've been dating many, many years, married, divorced, but now this time, oh my God, it was just done. I said, I'm ready. I put it out there. I was very clear. And the very first partner that arrived was my man. I thought, oh, that's too easy. I'm just going to date a bunch of other people for a month and stuff. I'm like, no, actually it is you. Yeah, it was you. And it's an experience that I've never had before, Nicole. I've never felt safe with a partner. I've never had that nobility. I've never had someone that truly, and I use these words on purpose because I've never experienced this, worships me and is devoted to me. And just like you said, the truth is, on the runway, like of life, stuff is coming up. We've been together 5-6 months, and these waves will come up that I don't think can only occur unless you're in a new relationship. But he holds space. Mm-hmm. He doesn't judge. He doesn't defend. He's not going anywhere. And I'm like, wow, it's really real. It's really happening. A noble man, and I'm actually safe. Yeah. So it's completely possible. It's completely possible.
And I think we often think once it's healed, but there's practice. Like it really takes time to anchor it in and to hold it in place.
Oh, yeah.
And people need to give themselves grace and compassion for that.
Yeah.
And I think too often we forget that this healing journey is not a light switch. It's a dimmer switch.
No. No.
And the dimmer switch is only controlled by the healing that actually goes into it. So it's interesting. Now, I love this idea of becoming the one to find the one, which awakens the one. Talk to me more about this.
Yeah. Well, I was clear that if I found the one, everything would be fine. Marriage number 1, marriage number 2, clearly that doesn't work. And I was like broken, wounded, attracting somebody broken, wounded, and half of me and half of you, we equal 1, and you're the source of my safety, and don't you dare change or leave. It was, completely soulmate level, not healthy. And of course, they both blew up in divorces. I'm like, oh, so if I'm whole, not perfect, different, but whole, i.e. sovereign, i.e. I am the source of my safety and worth, and I'm creating my life. So agency, I can attract someone else who's whole. But what I didn't understand, when you get to this level of co-creation, it's not 1 and 1 is 2. It's 1 and 1 is infinity. Because not only are you whole, you begin to awaken the best in one another, these dormant evolutionary qualities within one another when you're in this type of relationship. And so in order to have that, we must first become whole. We must become the one that we are seeking. everything we're looking for in the outside that we finally get and have that sense of relief, that's a true tail sign. That's a red flag that you're seeking wholeness on the outside in, not becoming it and being it from the inside out. Mm-hmm. So the work that I teach, the work that I've done personally, is everywhere that I'm looking on the outside, be that, have that, embody that on the inside. Then the one that I've truly been looking for that I found is me. Mm-hmm. And then simultaneously, it's the divine. Mm-hmm. So we're making love with life. We are one with divinity in, as, and through us. We have a sense of home and juiciness, even if we haven't been having sex, because we've been making love with life. Mm-hmm. So that is the become the one to find the one in the mirror. And that vibration and that way of being doesn't need another to be enough, to be whole, to look good, to whatever it is the in order to. And so from there, you're choosing a partner that doesn't complete you, but who complements you and who awakens you. And it's been delightful with my current partner. He's a musician. He's retired. And since we met, he's been writing all these songs. Like, he writes me love songs and he plays his guitar, and it's just amazing. And it's happened since he met me, because there's something in my field that the divine coming through me is awakening the divine coming through him. I'm not doing anything to him, mm-hmm. but it's this figure 8 infinity dance, and he's awakening my playfulness. I don't need to be on guard trying to be safe all the time and everything's on my shoulders. I'm supported. I'm protected. I have someone to lean on. It's safe for me to be a hot mess and be loved and be exuberant sexually, or just curl it up in his arms like, wow. So more of me is coming out. So that's the become the one to find the one, which awakens self, but it also awakens partnership. And the cool thing is, it doesn't just awaken, romantic partnership. It awakens friendship. Like, my friendships are getting deeper, or my clients are awakening more. And they're also leaving if they're not ready to ascend to the next level.
That happens.
Totally.
Just like in all areas of our life, if there's an irritation in the field because where you're at is just too uncomfortable for other mm-hmm. people, because it's triggering for them. Totally. And it's nothing that is, bad for them or bad for you. Like, it's just an energy frequency that's not really compatible. Yeah. And so that is what's happened. And I've seen that myself, where I've, either, lost, clients or viewers, or I've had to fire clients, because I know it's not a right match anymore. Sure. And so that's definitely something that happens in all areas of our life. I'm curious to know, with your relationship, one of the things that I've noticed through my healing journey and shifting my relationships, especially even in dating, is that one of the ways to assist in, as I'm navigating and figuring this all out, right, is to not always date the familiar, and to allow myself to date the unfamiliar. Yeah. Because the unfamiliar can feel like, oh, this is boring, or, oh, I'm not interested, or, oh, there's no sparks here, like whatever it might be. Right. But that's not always the case. Like, sometimes it can be that, and it can be something else. Right. Yeah. Could you elaborate on that more, on what you've understood from all of it?
Yeah. My understanding is that my wound, my unintegrated trauma, mm-hmm. had a way of being turned on. It was chemistry. It was intense. And there was a certain look and a certain thing they would do in the world for their job, let's say, or a certain way they would be coy with me or play with me. That was the mirror of the abuser way back. It was familiar, and my body was alert to survive. And when I survive, I go into people pleaser. I go into, what do I need to do to lower what this pain could be? I get absolutely, in the past was completely hooked into anything to keep them calm, anything to keep them happy. Give away my time, my energy, my money, my body, doesn't matter. I was like locked in. It was very, very intense. And then it would blow up. That was the wound running the show. when I went through my healing journey after that criminal assault was that I lost my libido. Like I went from being turned on by being abused, which was really what it was,
Mm-hmm.
to having no libido and really feeling like this new little bud coming out for the first time to discover what is healthy sexuality, what is healthy attraction. So I didn't have a libido for a good 3-4 months. And I thought, oh, it must just be menopause or whatever it was, which I'm sure had something to do with it. But it was really the resetting, not just of secure attachment to myself, but the resetting of my sexuality. I got to, at 53, have a new lease on my sexuality and learn to be turned on by kindness and nobility and honor and respect, which is very different than what used to turn me on. So this man I'm with is super consistent, super protector, not the physical. I normally would date an MMA fighter or something like that. Like those would be the guys that I'd be attracted to. And he's not that. And he used to ride horses, and he's definitely an athlete and a musician, but it was very different. And then sexually, to really go slow, because all I'd ever had before was like clitoral orgasms or anything in my mind that would make me feel safe enough that I survived the abuser turn on. Not healthy, but that's just the vulnerable truth of how it was. So now I'm learning to be turned on by rapture, by presence, by slow rhythmic, where do you end, where does he begin? It's a whole different realm. And I'm still beginning, Nicole. I've only had one vaginal orgasm and I haven't had a cervical orgasm yet, but I will. I'm moving in the direction of getting over that quick hit clitoris orgasm and going into these hours of these waves of energy that I've never, ever experienced, because I'm safe in my body. I've become the one. I've found safety with myself and the divine. And that vibration has attracted a man who's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I can surrender. Mm-hmm. So I also encourage the viewers or listeners that if you've never had that kind of safety or that sexual rapture, that it is totally possible. And I will also say, you've got to do the work to rewire your entire nervous system, not just in who you're attracted to, but how you're literally aroused in a healthy way.
It's interesting because the arousal energy is something that we think we need another person to initiate. And
yeah, good point. It's not required.
It's not required. And I know I'm not talking about self-pleasuring, or, in order to create that. I mean, through our spiritual journeys, you can awaken that Kundalini energy that sits at the base of your spine. And when you activate it, you can use it for so many things. And when you tap into it in a way that isn't for the act of sex, with another or with yourself, but for just straight up pleasure, of enjoyment in whatever it might be, creation, use it to create whatever it is you want to maybe build in this world or offer, like whatever there's, when you start to feel it more and more, it becomes a memory that you know how to tap into and recreate over and over. It's like this, it's no different than happiness. If you know how to be happy without any external forces,
well said.
You can tap into that happiness at will. It's a choice. It's a state of being. And so is being turned on.
Yeah. I'm in total agreement with you. I use the word more joy. For me, the happy was my roller coaster. Happy, sad, like, or happy, depressed. But the joy, as you just so beautifully said, is for no reason. The sense of home is for no reason. The sense of aliveness, turn on, curiosity, pleasure, the sensuality of being in a body. Like, I get to experience this level after all both of us have been through, to feel safe in the body, pleasure in the body. And literally, and I mean this, maybe not like a clitoral climactic orgasm, but the sense of like, I've just been like dancing in the backyard, and it's like a full body orgasmic blissful wave of what the hell was that? And it is there for us to tap into. It is us clearing out enough, integrating enough, processing enough that our vessel, our body is open for the divine in, as, and through us. And it feels good. It feels safe. It feels like we're enough for no reason. It feels like I don't need to prove anything. And it feels like for me anyways, like a humility, like, wow, thank you for not giving up on me, divine. I really couldn't find you for a while. I'd lost myself and I'd lost you, but you never went anywhere. Thank you. And to have that through my body is beautiful. And I love what you said. We can use it for creativity of all ways. And I believe we can use it for healing others just by our gaze, just by our presence, just by our touch. Yeah.
It's interesting because I've been told by some of the people who were at my retreat a couple months ago that witnessing me you kind of call it dancing, but I used my hands and my arms to channel in all this different light language while they were in journey. And I literally was just tapping into the frequency. I had no medicine. And I was able, but I also know the frequency now so well. So it's just so easy for me to tap into. And I was moving my hands and arms and doing all these things. And they said that was one of the highlights for them of the entire retreat was being able to witness it. And I'm noticing that this is coming through more and more. The more more I'm feeling safe in my body, the more I'm surrendering to that divine flow coming in and moving my body in ways that I don't even know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. And so that can be like a really important and crucial part of the healing journey, that through your own movement, someone just even observing or being around you could be receiving healing codes, because there's codes embedded in the movement. Now, that being said, you being a dancer, can you speak to what dance actually does for helping someone heal?
Thank you. Yeah. So first, about what you're just saying, I believe we can all channel. And I don't, not that we need to like speak in tongues or channel a certain being or what have you, but when we do enough integration work, we all, I believe, can allow this energy to move through for our own healing and the healing of others, and why we're all on the planet together. And when the first time that began to happen, I remember saying to the client who was blindfolded, they're like, "You're being a spiritual vacuum." I'm like, sorry, I don't know. I'm not doing this. Something's moving my arms, and being a spiritual transfusion. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing anything. It's just the divine is using me. So it's been a delightful journey to get the hang of this energy. So I so love that you're saying that. I believe one of the reasons I can perhaps more easily surrender to the way in which I use medicine to heal with my facilitators is that I was trained as a dancer, do the right steps, look good. But after a while with my dancing, because I've been a dancer since I was 5, I got more into the Gabriel Roth 5 rhythms. In Los Angeles, we used to call it fumbling towards ecstasy, where you just let the music move you. You just let the energy move you. You're not in your head doing the steps. So I'd practiced that enough that when it was time to go through these psychedelic somatic journeys, my body would literally recapitulate the abuse, and my hands would push away the abuser, and I would let the body recapitulate until it got home, because I was used to surrendering to the energy through my body. Even though it was showing me things I didn't really enjoy going through again. So that's one use of it. But the other use of dancing is so you can heal yourself that way. But then once you've integrated the wounds, being able to dance allows you to have the divine in, as, and through you. Like my hands will go into these mudras that I couldn't recreate if my life depended on it. And so if you honor the body, as we've been saying here today, trust the body, let the music move your body, and you have this as a regular practice, it's a wonderful way to get out of the head, honor the body, and let the energy do what it needs to do. You might desire a heavy metal song and stomping around and where's my baseball bat? Like there might be, that's what your body wants to get rid of some anger. Your body might want a hot bath in the fetal position. Just trusting, getting into a practice of trusting the way the body wants to move is wonderful. I think another great practice is that if you ever get jealous of like, she's more sexy than me, bitch, whatever it is, like even if it's jealousy, let that jealousy even move through you. We don't have to always cognitively analyze things. It's a very limited way, in my opinion, of healing something. You might have greater understanding of why this isn't working or why you feel fucked up in an area, but that's very different than healing it, transforming it, transmuting it, the alchemy. To me, that occurs when we surrender to the body, even the dark stuff, especially the dark stuff, if we can surrender and move. And now I remember, and I can't remember what date it was, my boyfriend said, oh yeah, back when I was young, I took ballroom dancing and all that stuff. I'm like, shut the door. No. We're going to like Argentina for a month. We're going to go like do tango. And I now have attracted a partner that dances with me in the kitchen and dances with me making love and dances with me when we drive somewhere. I think dance is key. It's sacred. It's the sacred ritual that our bodies require to be alive, truly alive.
It's why it's been used since the beginning of time, and
totally
sacred
right
ceremonies and rituals and
yes,
and all of that. There's a reason why, because just moving the hips, moving the spine, that's our main channel. And this entire world is designed to like stop that, just work a 9 to 5 and sit at a desk and sit in that chair for like 8-9 hours straight and don't move and let everything get locked up and and it's just
You make a really good point though. Just hip circles. I used to, when I lived in LA, I went to S Factor for a good 7 years or so, and just instead of doing like you're lying on your butt and you're doing the butt lifts like that, we never did it like that in S Factor. We did butt circles. Butt circles. We didn't do push-ups. We did circular push-ups, like just allowing the circularness of our body is unlocks and unleashes so much. And I'll even say to clients sometimes at retreats, they'll be really in their head. I'll be like, can you just get down on all fours right now? You just like do some hip circles. Yeah. And let's just keep talking. And they're like, why? I'm like, because it's going to be different. And they source truth from the soul and the hips rather than the control of the mind. So I think we should go dancing one time whenever we get to find each other.
I know. Absolutely. It's been a really newer experience for me. And I think psychedelics has definitely allowed me to tap into that Kundalini frequency more often and get really familiar with it so that I know how to tap into it on my own. But also because you're not in your head when you're on the medicine, right? Like you've surrendered, you're feeling. And so then like I'd see, oh, my body's moving in an interesting way. And now it's to the point where like literally I'll be sleeping and waking myself up because in my dreams, I'm literally moving now in my dreams, in my bed. And it's just like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Okay.
Oh my God. Isn't it fun? When you were on my podcast, I was like, oh my God, me too. Oh my God, me too. Just this week, I'll share a quick little story because for me, in the beginning, I needed the medicine to get out of here. I was still spinning and grasping so much, but over time, I don't need the medicine or as much or at all anymore to be able to be there or be there with my clients. So I love that you were sharing that too. But just this week, and this is about you do the work, but you're never there. And so I'm in the relationship and the dog gets in the bed around 4:30 in the morning, but normally sleeps on the other side of my partner. So I can keep sleeping. We get up 6:30. It's fine. Well, this time the dog got in the middle between the two of us. And a normal human would say, well, move the dog. A normal human would say, wake up your boyfriend and get him to move the dog. But for me, the level 4 trauma was don't make the man angry. And so I knew at 4:30, at 5 a.m., at 5:30, at 6 a.m., I knew I should say something. And I was trying to say something, but my body was like, nope. My brain was like, say something. My body was like, nope. So I got out of bed and I slept on the couch. And he came out in the morning. He's like, why didn't you just wake me up? And all you had to do was say that. And I said, that's like saying to somebody who's paralyzed, walk. I said, I couldn't find in my body the ability, the capacity to wake you up for fear that you would have gotten angry. And so he's like, what do you need right now? I go, I need to go back to bed and process. So what I did is I went back to bed, and a full on wave occurred where you disassociate and you're completely frozen cold. And then the hopelessness, and then the fear, the whole wave occurred of speaking up and it not going very well. But I got all the way back to zero, and all the wonderful energy came back in my body. And I went out and I said, thank you. I just need to know that if I wake you up at 4:30 in the morning, you're not going to get mad. And he's like, no, baby. I said, okay. And so it was yet another, all these threads, all these peeling away at the onion of in the moment to support our body, and not to shame ourselves or blame ourselves or make ourselves wrong and be critical with our little one that's learning. Our body is learning to show up again in life, even in our 50s.
Yeah. So, yeah. And it's just speaking to that point of there's so much that we disassociate with as we grow up, and because we don't know how to cope with what we've been through. And so all of these parts of us become really fractalized, and like all of our feelings, and we just don't know. And so as we're starting to integrate and pull things back in, it really isn't just this, oh, well, everything's just so close by, let's just pull it all together, bring it all in at once, and it's all good. It's and really that would even be, I think, overwhelming to the system. I think it would almost like cause things to shut down. And so you've got everyone's got to understand that this is a process, and little bit by little bit, as you get stronger and as you go through this, that there's more that you can bring home, and it does get a little bit easier.
Yes, it does.
Sometimes you might hit a harder emotion or a harder memory, but you have the tools to work through it now.
Yes.
And your normal is at a much higher high. And that's so worth it,
oh yeah, it's completely worth it. And there's a sense of not hoping, but knowing I can go through hell and get to heaven. I can go through the worst thing that I don't think I can get through, and I did it, and I got home to 0 point and wholeness. So the next time it arises, you don't have to resist it. Not hope or think, you'll get home. And so that to me allows for the integration of it to be that much more graceful. And the big kahunas have been integrated. So these little tendrils come home a lot faster. And then I feel like you get to be that gift to others when they're triggered. You don't get triggered anymore by another's trigger. I think that's the greatest gift for my boyfriend with me, is that in his past relationships, he had to suppress his feelings because it would trigger others. And so there's a freedom for the people around us when we don't get triggered, that they can then rest as well, and their true self can begin to arise. And it's just the gift that keeps on giving. And I can't imagine, even though I don't wish anything that's happened to me or you on anyone, I'm also grateful that it all happened, because it was the path I required to be where I am, to have such compassion that there's pretty little people will share with me that will shock me, and I won't judge, and they'll be safe, and we can integrate anything. Yeah.
I also feel like, we come in here with a plan. Come in here with a little bit of a plan, a little bit of a blueprint. And however, because there's so much in this matrix that we have to work through, and that is designed to be an obstacle for us, which is really just for our growth. So I'm not looking at it from the perspective of like, oh, poor me, but I do believe that if you do move through all these different levels, it's like if you were to go to school and you take the curriculum and, you work really hard, and you learn, and you eventually get to the point where it's like, maybe it's, getting towards the end of the year and your teacher is like, okay, you've completed everything. You've done super well. You've
Yeah.
gotten pretty much A's across the board, but I have this other, offer for you that I don't really give to just everyone because they're
Uh,
not ready for it yet.
yeah.
Would you like this other assignment that would only like obviously create more growth for you and more to
Yep.
learn and
Yep.
training you? And I feel like that's this life. Like we go through all of this healing, and I know some people are like, when is it ever done? And it's
Mm.
like the point of healing is to offer you a pathway of self exploration and growth. What are
Yeah.
you capable of? That's
Yeah.
it, and it's like, well, okay, if healing's like, what am I capable of? What more am I capable of? And if I
Mm.
heal more, what sort of rewards come with that? And what does that open up? What does that give me access to that I don't have access to right now?
Yeah. The level of sensuality, the level of rapture, the level of being so blissed out with the tiniest of things, the level of play, impact, travel, the smallest things bringing me so much joy. I'm so grateful for all that that's led to. It's not like, oh, now she has the big house and the millions and all. Like, it's not like it looks like when the ego's running the show. When the soul is running the show and you've got this level of ascension, the tiniest ladybug that lands on you while you're having your cup of coffee out on the front porch can be a moment of rapture with divinity. There's such happiness in the smallest things. And I think there's also the ability to be with the pain of the world and not turn away.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be with so much more, the more, at least this is for me, the more I ascend. And so I don't get brought down by how horrific situations on the planet are, nor do I pretend it's not happening. I can be with it more and ask the questions, what can I do? Well, whatever that holographic projection is that's going on out there, I can do my part and heal that in me. I can do my part and heal that within my clients. And simultaneously, the other side of my smile, this side of my smile might be sad, but this side of my smile. And I will not also bypass the rapture of this moment, the beauty of this moment, the bliss of this moment, the gratitude of this moment. So I'm not Pollyanna. I'm not spiritually bypassing, nor am I marred in this martyr victim world. I feel like two sides of the heart. I can stay open. I can stay open to it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels not like fearlessness, but it does feel unstoppable. It doesn't feel like there's anything that could happen that I can't get through, or any way that I wouldn't have your back if we were, on some event that we were speaking at, or some horrific thing that went down on the planet. Like, I got you. You got me. Like, that kind of partnership is what I've developed. And I love that. I love being people's partners.
Yeah, yeah. And to kind of close off the show,
Yeah.
let's just kind of dedicate the last few minutes to the body,
Mm.
because even when I think about it, you sometimes don't realize maybe the wisdom that's being imparted upon you or that's coming through you in your
Mm.
earlier stages of healing. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, I became really more present and was healing through my body through yoga.
Nice.
It was something that, through a fear and shame of my own inability to be flexible,
Mm.
and thinking that I looked really ugly to others as in a yoga pose because I was super inflexible,
Wow,
that
honey.
I had to learn how to be really vulnerable, how to surrender, and how to breathe into my body, how to how to be comfortable in my body in those
Yeah.
uncomfortable situations. And so
Yeah.
when I wrote my book, I was like, oh, well, who am I going to dedicate my book to? And it was called Inflexible Me. And I was like, oh, I'm going to dedicate this to the greatest teacher I know, my body.
Oh, that's so beautiful, sweetie. Wow.
And I do believe that our body is a wonderful teacher. It's a messenger, it's a
Yeah.
teacher. It
Mm.
is also our container
Mm.
for this reality. What sort of message would you like to leave the audience with that you've learned through the importance of understanding the role of the body in this entire journey, and why someone should not lessen its importance but like raise it up on to the highest pedestal.
Oh, same. I feel like I just want to like snuggle in under a blanket and continue the conversation talking to you. Like, it's just so yummy when someone gets the reverence for the body. I so respect that about you, and I'm so glad we get it. It's so good. I just want to say that first. So I'll give them this analogy. When I'm embodied, I know everything. I know what's safe and what's not safe, who to trust, who not to trust, when to wait, when to go, what freeway to go down, what food to eat, who to have sex with, who to work with. Like, I know everything. I don't think, I know. Like, my body, my embodiment gives me everything I need to thrive. Pre-thought. It's just in there. And so going through life with that level of power and freedom and safety is priceless. So I want to say that the experience of even just going for a walk, going to a networking event, showing up to a date, going out with your kids, tipping forward with your head, trying to figure it out, trying to be in control, trying to do it right, pushes away intimacy, pushes away connection to self, pushes away the incredible dance with another, pushes away life. And so if we can think of ourselves, I like the analogy of a sailboat, that our heart is like the hull, the boat. And this mast is like to our pineal, non-local intelligence, divine mind. But if we don't have that keel down, we don't go into our hips, if we don't go into that deep into the water, I'll just tip right over. And so to be embodied, to be in your body, and to be able to live with your heart splayed wide open, but also have that keel so that you're not going to be taken off your center, no matter what happens, personally, professionally, romantically, financially, vocationally, parentally, whatever it's going to be. Your keel is in there because you live in your hips. And when you walk, you are against Mother Gaia, and she's got you, and you're connected. When you walk through, led by your hips when you walk, not led by your heart. So you're walking like this, not like this. You're unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
You're sovereign. The world is what you got, life. Like, you're not doing this all the time. You're not holding back. You're free. And there's just nothing more delicious than living like this. And then you add that way of being, living from your hips, and you listen to your kid come home and say, the bully beat me up, or I got a D on your paper. You don't go fix the kid. You're in your body and you're like, wow, tell me more. And when you're making love and you're like, oh my God, are they liking it? Or you're going into performance anxiety, you're going to your head, go down to your hips and just let go and let the hips lead the way as you're making love. There's just so many moments I can think of, or even just being with a client. I don't get on my client calls anymore and go, well, what are we going to work on today? And let's analyze this. Let's have a breakthrough. I just be. Mm-hmm. And we find our way. And their body knows that my body's got them. I don't need to say shit. There's something so incredible beyond my even comprehension that's going on, because I've honored my body and how it makes their body feel safe, and the emotion will come up and we'll integrate it. So yeah, I'm so grateful that you get it. I'm so grateful to be embodied. I'm so grateful that I don't think I'll ever get there. Like, how much embodiment and rapture is possible on all these multidimensional levels. I feel like, I'm a dragon, or I'm a goddess, or all these different beings. I'm an angel. So yeah, please do the work, because there's a level of home that I've never known until I've done this embodiment work. Mm-hmm. That's our birthright. It's our birthright.
Thank you for that. I love that analogy of the ship. I think that's really powerful. Yeah. And super easy to understand, and also even embody in yourself to remember, because even in my own teachings that I've been shown is, always drop the energy from your head through your heart into your hips.
Same.
Always into your hips.
Yep.
And that is intuition. Intuition isn't the heart.
Correct.
Intuition is the gut. It's in the hips.
Correct.
It's all in that sacral area. So really important. I love that. And I know that my audience is going to love that takeaway. So thank you for ending on that note. What
Oh,
have you got
thank
going
you.
on that if anyone in my audience wants to connect with you or work with you, how can they
Yeah.
get a hold of you?
My site is my name, allanapratt.com. So go there and you can sign up for an intimacy breakthrough experience with me to correctly or connect with me directly. There's a lot of different complimentary assessments there. Our intimacy blind spot assessment is there. I have a retreat coming up in February in Costa Rica. And so I don't know when this will air, but there's about 5 spots left. So that's a possibility. And just go to YouTube and put in one of your challenges. And I'm sure a lot of different videos will come up. You'll get to know me that way. You can sign up for my newsletter. That's where very vulnerable videos go. They don't go out on YouTube. They don't go out anywhere. Only people that want to be in my world, who really see. It's sort of like a conscious soap opera. Like every week of my life, I'll share what's actually going on to people that actually want to live this level of authenticity and vulnerability and unapologetic living. So, and then lastly, the podcast where they can hear you. So intimate conversations. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'll leave all the links for that for you guys in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, in the video description below, go check Allana out. Thank you, Allana, for being on the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here, as it always is.
Yes.
And to my audience, I love you guys so much. Stay in your body, get to know your body. It'll become your greatest teacher in this journey of life. And remember that this matrix does everything it can to disconnect you from it, to push you further and further away from it, to be ashamed of it, to judge it, to fear it, to not want it, to all of those things. And that is your key to go in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I concur.
Yeah. So with that, I love you guys, and I will see you next week. All right. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.